Hello.
It's Elliotte Friedman calling.
Elliotte Friedman, you've reached the Steve Dangle Podcast.
Is that good or bad?
Well,
It's great.
We thought you didn't like us, actually.
No, I got no issue here.
We were expecting your voicemail to change to be like, no Steves. Don't call if you're Steve. I mean, Kiprios already very obviously doesn't like me. I saw the
I can't
TV.
hear what you're saying.
Oh, you can't hear what he's saying? Oh, here we go. That would be my fault. Go ahead, Steve.
Hello, Elliot.
Now I can hear it.
I knew it. This board is configured in a weird way, okay? It's not my fault.
Yes. Well, first of all, I guess let's start nice and easy. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Steve. How are you?
I'm a Leaf fan, so that's unfortunate. But other than that, I'm good.
Good.
Elliot,
Yes.
this is Jesse Blake.
Hi, Jesse.
What did you eat for breakfast this morning?
I actually had a chopped egg bagel and a coffee.
Oh,
That's a good breakfast.
Why did you ask that question?
what did you have in your coffee?
I drink my coffee black.
It's
The correct way.
Yeah, so does Jesse.
Elliot,
I put crap in it.
I now have an inane question for you. How
Are
hilarious
we
was
being
it?
recorded right now?
You bet.
How hilarious was it yesterday when Steve did that video for you guys on Hockey Central saying it has to be a former Leaf scoring tonight, and Kipper sort of dismissed it and said that Steve's segment should be sponsored by Excedrin, which I thought was a good line.
Yeah.
And then you came on, and you're like, yeah, that's the life of a Leaf fan, and then it actually happened.
Is anybody surprised? The moment he took the puck at center ice, he knew he was going to score.
100% with Nikita Soshnikov's move too.
Well, I don't know if anybody predicted that, but yes,
Nope.
I think we all predicted Holland was going to score at that particular point in time. So now we got to wait to see who Frankie Corrado ends up with and how he beats them in the shootout.
Do you
And the
think
Stanley Cup?
Do you think that's going to happen? Because I mean, I did something on Free Frank Corrado, then Chris Johnson did something, and you did too, and it was all like in a 24-hour span a couple weeks ago. Do you think this guy's on the move?
I'm curious to see how they're going to react about the fact that he finally spoke out about it. That's what I'm wondering about. Like, he's been a really good soldier and he's kept his mouth shut. And yesterday he finally said something. And I thought the question to Babcock, I didn't see who asked it or how it was asked, but either the questioner misconstrued what Corrado said or Babcock misunderstood the question. But whenever somebody says something, I'm always curious to see how Lou Lamoriello was going to react.
Do you think that, and Steve mentioned this earlier in the show when you weren't on, he said, their eighth defenseman is giving them a headache. Do you think it's surprising that Frank Corrado's allowed to speak to the media at all?
No, I think that Frankie has done the right thing. He's kept his mouth shut for over a year. Like, I think he's been very good to them in that sense. I think it would have been easier to complain a lot sooner than this. And what are you going to do? You're in a dressing room. If a media member walks up to you, it's your choice whether to talk or not. And Corrado decided he would not say anything for a long time. And guys, like, there's no coincidence to the fact that it happened on the same day that Peter Holland returned with Arizona. Like,
Same agent.
Same agent. And also, if you're Frankie Corrado, you saw this guy, he was basically banished from the team. He gets traded finally, and in his first game, he gets 2 assists. And in his second game, although it hasn't happened yet, he scores the shootout winner. Like, you don't think Frankie Corrado's sitting there and saying, boy, it would be nice if I got my opportunity. Like, there's no coincidence in that.
So what do you think is going to happen? What's the likely outcome with given the personalities involved, Babcock, Lou Lamoriello, Brendan Shanahan, anybody else that might have a hand in this, and Frankie Corrado's agent, obviously? Do you think they have the similar conversation with Lou and say, listen, it's time to make a move here? Or have they already had that?
Adam, I think that conversation has happened a long time ago. Like the only thing I think that changes here is that Corrado talked. And now, you saw what he said. He said, obviously, Babcock does not like me as a coach. He doesn't like my game. He said that he gave Lamoriello credit for perking him up a little bit at times. And I think it comes down to one thing. Does Lamoriello or Babcock say that, okay, now that this guy's talked, let's get him out of here? And that's the only variable that changes in all of this, as far as I'm concerned.
Pretty big variable, though.
Yes, it's a large variable. It's like your mortgage. You feel it. Yes.
So I know you're just dying to talk more about the Florida Panthers.
Yes, I am.
So I guess a little bit of context. So we're on the online portion, so I can talk about Bob McKenzie now. He went on quite the rant yesterday. Did you hear it, Elliotte?
Yeah, somebody said it to me, so I heard it.
He's getting pretty fed up.
So what did he say?
You
You contextualize this for anybody that didn't hear it. I know he said we're not making this stuff up, and
Yes.
we got to rewind it a little bit here because Darren Dreger reported that Dale Talon's duties had been increased. Did he not?
Yeah, they had changed, and then I think you said they hadn't.
Well, no, this is how it works.
Okay, good.
So Darren comes out with the report that Dale Talon's kind of back in charge. So, I got no reason to disbelieve Darren. He's a good reporter, and he's right about most things. So I start checking around to see what's up, and I sent a text to the owner, Vinny Viola, one of about 10 people I sent text to or called, and he called me back, and he said no change. And so, the Panthers aggressively pushed back, not only with me, but with Chris Johnston and their local media, George Richards and Harvey Fieldcock. And so I know what that's like when you're in Darren's shoes. When, like, for example, I remember, a couple years ago when I was reporting that Tim Lewicki was going to be out at MLSE, there were some people who pushed back pretty aggressively. And I know what that's like. You're sitting there and you're right, but you start doubting yourself. And then people start calling you a liar or wrong. And, it's not a great position to be in. So I think Bob's rant was as much about defending his teammate as anything else. You'll heard at the end of it, he said, look, we don't make stuff up. So he was defending. I think one of the reasons Bob was so demonstrative and angry was because he didn't like the heat that Darren was under, which I get. Believe me, I get. I don't think Darren was wrong. I think what happened here is something definitely happened in that organization. The ground kind of shifted, and Dale was asked to get back. Like he was like, I'm fed up with this. Nobody listens to me. I'm on the outside, whatever. And I think they went to him and they said, we need you to be more active, come back and be more involved because we need to fix what's going on here. And so it got out. And I think the team was a little bit embarrassed. I think they would have preferred it didn't come out. And their point is saying, look, like Dale's title has never changed.
Right.
And it's a bit of semantics, but that's what they were doing. And, but I do think there's no question that Dale's influence, which was waning as recently as a week ago, has now grown back a bit stronger.
Is that because of the last 10 games and they've gone, 2-3-3?
Yeah, 2-3-3 in the last 8.
Well, actually, after last night, I think they're 2-7. They've lost 7 of 9.
Whoa!
But 4 of them are in overtime or a shootout. And I remember, I'll tell you a story, guys. I remember a couple of years ago, I was eating dinner with some friends, and a guy came up to me and he said, "So and so is over here, and he's going to be buying a team. And can he talk to you for a second?" And I was introduced. I said, hello. And, he said to me, do you have any advice? And the one thing I told him was, I said, I don't like it when, really wealthy, successful people ask me for advice because I'm not wealthy and I'm not successful like them. So
Elliotte.
I said to him, look, the one thing you're about to learn is people should care more about your business because it's more important, but they won't. They'll care more about your sports team. You can make all the mistakes you need to make in business, and 98% of the time, nobody's going to notice, and nobody's going to make a big deal about it, and nobody's going to care. But if you screw up your sports team, get ready, because you're going to get a public monsoon that you've never seen before. And Vinny Viola is going through that right now. This is the first time he's probably ever seen anything like this in his life. He had a pretty famous book written about him by Michael Lewis, the guy who wrote Moneyball.
That's right.
But it's nothing like this. And I'm sure he's going through the ringer right now. and everybody's telling him what a terrible job he's doing and how dumb he is, which he isn't. And he's saying, wow, like I've never been through this before. And, you know, that's what's kind of going on. He's sitting there and saying, I'm in the eye of the storm. How do I get out of this? And I'm going to ask Dale Talon to get me help. The one thing I don't know here, guys, is if Dale Talon was to walk into his office tomorrow, Viola's office, and say, I've got a 6-player trade that I think can fix us, can he do it?
Ooh.
That I don't know.
Who can? Is there?
Well, ultimately, it's the owner's call, right? But some owners are like, okay, if you tell me this, we'll do it. Like, I know there's like a couple weeks ago, there was a player I heard became available, and he's like an owner's favorite. The owner loves him. And I said, can you trade this guy? And because I heard the owner likes you. And actually, it was not a couple weeks ago, it was a while ago, it was about a year ago. And the GM in question said, yes, you're right, my owner likes him. But he said he leaves it to me. He says, if you really think this is a move we need to make, fine. I won't like it, but fine. And it hasn't happened because he never got a deal he liked.
Oh.
But the fact is, some owners say, you're in charge, but you don't surprise me. And other owners are like, I've got to know everything. And I think Viola is in Camp B.
Okay.
Very neat. So you put us in 30 Thoughts last week, which is crazy.
Well, you guys did a good podcast with Seafood.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
I didn't even know we made it. That is
you.
like, wow. That
Adam's been on vacation.
That's
so
amazing.
he didn't even know. He found out just now.
Awesome.
I guess they don't have the internet where you went.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Ironically, Elliotte, you know where he was? Florida.
Oh, yeah, you know, they don't have the internet in Florida.
No, they don't. There are some things that happen there. That
Or
we're
a stable
working on.
hockey team. World Star. So you listened to that, I assume, the whole thing.
Yeah, listen to this part. Yeah.
What were your
Wow, Elliott's just dropping hot fire on
Wow.
us right now. Keep going.
Did you learn anything from it?
Oh yeah, I learned. I thought the whole idea about the structure was interesting. I really enjoyed that bit. You know, I thought it was good he came on. Like if there's one thing I've learned about the Florida Panthers in the last month is that these guys are not afraid to answer questions. You know, Tom Rowe came on and did it, and Doug Seafood did it with you, and Vinny Viola called me back this week, and a lot of owners wouldn't have. Like, these guys don't run away, and I do respect that.
I guess that was the confusing thing for me because people were asking so many questions about the team.
Yeah.
But that was it. They were asking the questions, and then that was kind of the end of the dialogue. And these guys are actually pretty easy to get a hold of, which I found kind of strange. And one thing I've kind of been talking about a bit, and Bob obviously touched on it in his rant. Do you think a lot of people in, we'll call it the industry, feel like they have a personal, like they have a dog in this fight on whether...
What do you mean by what do you mean by that?
Do you mean the analytics versus non-analytics?
Not even analytics versus non-analytics, but some people, I think, feel like the Panthers represent the way they want hockey to go, and also the way they are threatening the way they want hockey to be.
You know, well, you are talking about analytics, but
Yeah.
I mean, so why didn't you just say yes when Adam brought it up? How come you had to talk circles around it?
I don't know, because I try to be smart.
Elliott's just coming in here slapping everybody.
Well, he treats me nicer than Kiprios did on the air yesterday. So.
But you know what, Steve? I think that's gone both ways. Like,
Oh, 100%. 100%.
like, look at this. Like, first of all, to me, the whole analytic versus old school debate is the stupidest debate ever.
It's
Like, it really is. It's childish. It's immature. All the two sides do is bait each other. Like, if I was running a team, I would want to know that my team, my hockey operations department, was doing everything it could to win. Everything. And to be honest, like, I think there's a lot of teams out there that do use analytics, but I'm not sure they're using the analytics that we use or that people on the internet use. Like, Scotty Bowman used to keep stats of who won puck battles. Huh. And when you shot the puck into the corner, did you get it? Did our team get it? What happened? So I think teams have been using different tools all the time. Like, I know Vancouver, under the Mike Gillis administration, one of the stats that they really believed in was how much you had the puck in the offensive zone. And they didn't just track shots, they tracked actually how much time you had with the puck. Because LA, a team always that gave them trouble, was a team that always had the puck in the offensive zone. So I think that there's teams doing this stuff, but they're not necessarily doing the stuff that we keep track of on Twitter or on the internet. And I think that's one of the problems. When Babcock goes off on his Corsi thing yesterday about Hunwick and Polak, he's saying that there's things I value and that there's things that people online value, and we don't value them the same way. And I think it's tough to argue with a guy who's won a Stanley Cup, a World Junior Championship, a Canadian University Championship, a World Cup gold medal, and 2 Olympic gold medals. When he says, I believe a certain way, it's tough to argue with him. So I think this whole thing is stupid and people just bait each other, and I really don't pay a lot of attention to it anymore. What I think that has happened in this case, I think there is an issue with the Panthers doing it differently. I do think there's a segment of the media that doesn't like that, absolutely. And also, and I say this myself, I like Dale Talon. And I like Gerard Gallant. And I've known Mike Kelly, the assistant coach who was fired there. I met him when I was 18 years old and as a student at the University of Western Ontario when he was the assistant coach there.
Wow.
And I like those guys. But I think there's a lot of people who like Dale. And I think that does, we always give the benefit of the doubt to people we like. And I always try to be fair and I always try to bend over backwards. But I do think that the guys who got kind of let go in Florida weren't as well known as the guys, or were much more well known as the guys who were there. And yes, I do think that plays a role. But conversely, guys, I also feel that there are people on hockey Twitter, I guess,
sure,
who would trash an NHL team that was doing this, but bend over backwards for the Panthers because they're doing it the way they like it.
100%.
So I think the biases go both ways.
100%.
They really do.
Because it confirms their point of view. Elliotte, what I want to know, and this to me is the more interesting question in the Florida Panthers situation, and in any sport you have owners that have personalities. You get your Jerry Jones in Dallas. You've got Dan Snyder in Washington in football, who not like it or not, he's a personality. You've got personalities in baseball, the Steinbrenners. You got it all over in the NHL. From what you've seen, with owners that are involved, got their hands in everything, and owners who are not, what teams on the whole are more successful? What kind of ownership groups do they have? Are they ones that take a hands-off approach and let the hockey people do the hockey things? Or are they the ones that are in it and involved and learning? What do you think?
Adam, I think that question is impossible to answer 100% one way or the other. And I'll look at it this way. Vancouver has an owner who's very active, the Aquilini family. But there have been times they've been very successful, and there have been times they haven't. I think San Jose, Doug Wilson has a very autonomous position there. Their owner, he rarely meddles, and they do great. Tampa Bay, Jeff Vinnick, their owner rarely meddles. Steve Yzerman has a big stick there, and they generally do very well. Detroit, you can argue that they've been the most successful team in the last 20 years, 25 years. The Illich's almost never meddle, and they do great. And New Jersey, which won their 3 Stanley Cups, they never meddled, and they did great for a long time. So I think there's an argument to be made for let your experts do what they're supposed to do, but there have been teams who've been successful with meddling ownership. I just don't think it lasts as long.
That is the fairest, most Elliotte Friedman thought out answer. It's so nice not to have like a hot take. It's cut and dry. You're right. The question would be impossible to answer. I appreciate the fact that you went to that length to try to answer it anyway, though. I appreciate that.
Well, I try to limit my hot takery because, you know what? I don't I'm a big believer in save your bullets. Because if you have hot takes all the time, people get sick of them. Right. So you got to just have the right moment when you really believe you have something, which in my case is about once every 6 years.
Here's something I've wondered aloud a couple times. Dale Talon has one of the best resumes out there, in terms of present day NHL and management and everything. If this situation is such a headache, don't you think he could just leave? Because wouldn't someone scoop him up instantly?
That's a great question, Steve. A year ago, almost, I heard he was going to Vancouver. This situation was brewing, and I heard he was going to go when Vancouver was kind of going through struggles at the end of last year. The word was that he was going to go there, and he was going to move in between Trevor Linden and Jim Benning. And I heard it a lot of different places. And don't forget, he's got a connection with Vancouver. He was their first ever NHL draft pick.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, but it never happened. Trevor Linden told me, I keep hearing this rumor, but it's not true. And it hasn't happened. So, when Las Vegas came up, there were rumors that he was going to be on the list for Vegas. And I don't think he ever got interviewed. So, I don't know. You would think, he did a great job in Chicago. He set them up to win a Stanley Cup, although he didn't win one there. He really stabilized Florida and got them going again. But to this point, and the secrets, it's not exactly a secret in the industry. People know that he, people know that he is available or wants to leave, but it hasn't happened. That's all I can tell you.
I have heard that he's just kind of comfortable doing what he's doing.
I don't believe that.
No? Okay.
I don't know. He had a vision there, and it's not the vision that's shared by current ownership. And there's no way he liked Branson getting traded, and there's no way he liked Jared Gallant getting fired, and there's no way he liked the training staff getting let go and stuff like that. I don't believe that. I think now, do I think he necessarily wants to, how old's Dale? He's got to be 60-something. Maybe he doesn't want to be grinding the way a guy has to grind, but I think I don't think he enjoys this.
Okay. There was a report out of the province in Vancouver. I think it was Jason Botsford. He said that he reported that Dale Talon did try to trade Goodbranson before he kind of had his role changed. Did you hear anything to that effect?
Yeah, I don't think Jason's wrong. I think that the conversation is pretty accurate, but I think that I don't think he would have made the deal that they made with Vancouver.
Okay. Fair enough.
When do we get to stop talking about them?
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully at the end of this interview.
That's not going to happen.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I kind of alluded to this last week in my blog that Adam didn't read. But,
I always read it.
You always sometimes read it.
But I think that the thing that bothers the NHL the most is that Florida as an organization has been a tire fire for the NHL for a long time. And they looked at it last year and they were like, all right, this is one last headache we have now. And now you're looking at it and you're going, what do we got here? And I think that's the concern for the NHL is, do we have a problem that we thought we were rid of? So I think that's the way the league looks at it. And I think but I think the other thing too here, guys, is that I'm just curious to see where this is all going to shake down at the end of this year. Like when the season's over, whether the Panthers are in the playoffs or they're not in the playoffs, whatever happens to them, that's the question. When they get some time to really breathe and see how things shake down, where are we? And I think that's going to be the big question.
Man, this team is too young and too talented to be going through all this stuff to me. I don't know. It's just there's so many great young players on this team for them to have these problems.
And I would probably agree with that. But let me ask you something, Elliotte, and try to go back in time mentally here. Mm-hmm. Let's pretend nothing happened. Gerard Gallant is still the head coach. Mike Kelly's still the assistant coach.
Yeah.
And over the last, 8 games, 9 games, whatever it was, they have the exact same record. It's 2-3-3 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Do we even bat an eye?
I think you bat an eye because the team's not doing well, right?
I mean, that's not catastrophic, though. It's certainly not good, but it's not uncommon for a good team to go to get 2 wins in that stretch.
I think the problem this year is if you're doing the math, right? The margin of error in the Atlantic Division is really small because you're looking at the Metro. Okay, you're looking at the Metro, and you're like, guess where the wild cards are coming from?
Both Metro, probably.
Yes, yeah.
Like, barring collapses, you think it's all coming from the Metro. So if you're and that's the problem for the Maple Leafs too. If you're in this division, your margin for error is really small.
You got to get one of the top 3 spots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times. I
love it.
Elliotte Friedman, we'd love to see you in person, but the fact that we got you on the phone mid-season is amazing, and we so appreciate that.
Well, you know what my wife says, Adam? The less you see me, the more you like me.
Is there one more thing you would like to say about this situation before putting it to bed?
I think the one thing I would say about those guys in Florida is, like I said, I know a lot of those guys who used to be in Florida. The guys there now, to me, it's like keep an open mind. Mm-hmm. In the sense that, I would like to see if this works. In the sense that, the way they're building a team, we've all heard arguments about whether or not this can work and why it can't. I'd like to see if it actually could. That's what I'm curious about. Now, the only other thing I would say is that if I was Vinny Viola, I think I saw John McDonough give a speech and a couple weeks ago, and it was an awesome speech. He said, since we got to Chicago, we've gone from a rotating door of GMs and coaches to consistency. You have to make a plan, and you have to stay with it. Mm-hmm. I think that's what Florida has to do. Make your plan, stay with it.
Do you think the Leafs will do that with their current defense core?
No. I think eventually they will make changes to that.
Okay.
If they had, it's the dumbest thing ever to say, but if they had Ekman Larson, like we were watching last night, how much better a team would they be if they had one guy like that?
One guy.
One guy.
It's literally one guy. But then it's how do you get an Oliver Ekman Larson?
Well, that's the problem. Look what Edmonton had to do to get Adam Larson.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't even have to pay for the Ekman there.
Oh,
you see,
wow.
Because
Elliotte Friedman, Steve, do you have any more questions? Are we good? Are we
you know what that was? That was Excedrin.
That was Excedrin, yes. Absolutely. Hey, Elliotte, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us. And you know what? We hope to get you in the studio at some time. I'm sure that'll be in the summertime, but we love you and really, truly appreciate what you're making time for us and what you had to say today.
All right, we'll do it after the season, guys.
Sounds like a plan.
Thanks, Freeds.
All right, my pleasure, guys.
Take care.